numbers game limited to box scores has evolved into a sophisticated landscape where data tells a richer and more complex story. Both basketball and baseball, two of the most analytically dissected sports in the world, have experienced a sea change thanks to the proliferation of advanced stats. These new tools are not merely complementary, they've become essential, affecting player evaluation, game strategy, and even player health. In basketball, the traditional way of evaluating a player often centered around basic metrics: points, rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, and maybe, if you were lucky, steals and blocks. Scouts and analysts could only rely on these stats, along with their observations, to determine a player's value. However, with the rise of advanced analytics, teams now have access to a vast array of metrics that offer a much deeper understanding of a player's impact. Player efficiency rating, PER, for example, developed by basketball statistician John Hollinger, attempts to condense all of a player's contributions into one number. This metric takes into account both the positive aspects of a player's game, like scoring, assists, and rebounding, as well as the negative aspects like missed shots and turnovers. While PER has its limitations, such as an overemphasis on scoring, it's a prime example of how advanced statistics give a more comprehensive view of player value. Another popular metric is win shares, which attempts to quantify the number of wins a player contributes to their team over the course of a season. Win shares take into account both offensive and defensive contributions, offering teams a clearer picture of a player's overall impact. Even more intricate is the real plus-minus, or RPM, a metric that attempts to isolate a player's impact on the game by measuring how a team performs when that player is on or off the court, adjusting for the strength of the opponent's teammates. RPM has become invaluable in identifying players who make significant and sometimes underappreciated contributions, even if those players aren't the ones lighting up the scoreboard. One of the most visible ways advanced statistics have changed basketball is in shot selection and offensive strategy. For decades, teams prioritized a balanced attack, often relying heavily on mid-range jump shots, which were seen as a key component of a well-rounded offense. Legendary players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and others made their living from the mid-range, with coaches designing plays specifically to get their stars open in that area. But as advanced metrics became more prevalent, they revealed a startling fact. The mid-range jump shot was one of the least efficient shots in basketball. Analytics showed that shots at the rim, high percentage layups and dunks, or three-pointers, which offer a higher return on investment, were actually far more valuable. Essentially, you either want to be as close to the basket as possible or shooting from beyond the arc, where each made shot is worth an extra point. This realization has caused a dramatic shift in the way the game is played. The one side of the equation. Advanced statistics have also revolutionized defensive analysis in basketball. Traditionally, defense was often gauged by steals, blocks, and defensive rebounds. While these metrics can give some insight into a player's defensive abilities, they don't tell the full story. Modern defensive metrics are much more nuanced. Defensive rating, for instance, attempts to measure how many points a player allows per 100 possessions. It's a useful tool for understanding how a player contributes to their team's overall defensive performance, but it's still limited because it doesn't fully capture off-ball defense or the quality of the opponents faced. More advanced metrics like defensive box plus minus, DBPM, and player tracking data give a clearer picture of a player's true defensive value. Player tracking systems now allow teams to quantify things like how well a player can test shots, their ability to rotate correctly in defensive schemes, and how effective they are at limiting an opponent's shooting percentage when guarding them. This has led to a greater appreciation for players who may not put up gaudy defensive stats, but are nonetheless crucial to a team's defensive success. For example, players like Draymond Green are highly valued for their defensive versatility and ability to anchor their team's defenses, even though their steal and block totals might not always reflect their true impact. Game strategy in basketball has also become far more sophisticated thanks to advanced analytics. Coaches now have access to vast amounts of data that help them understand how different lineups perform, which combinations of players are most effective, and what strategies work best against certain opponents. For instance, lineup data allows teams to analyze which five-man units have the highest net rating, essentially the difference between points scored and points allowed per 100 possessions. This information is invaluable for making in-game adjustments and optimizing rotations. Coaches can now tailor their game plans based on statistical evidence rather than relying purely on instinct. But it's not just about tactics and player evaluation. Player health has also become a key area where advanced statistics are playing a crucial role in basketball. Teams now use wearable technology and player tracking systems to monitor things like player workload, movement patterns, and even biometric data. This data is used to manage player fatigue, optimize recovery times, and prevent injuries. The NBA's grueling 82-game season takes a physical toll on players, and advanced data allows teams to better understand how much strain players are under and when they need rest. Load management, once a controversial practice, has become more common, particularly with superstar players, as teams try to ensure their best athletes are fresh and healthy when it matters most during the playoffs. By tracking everything from heart rate to the number of jumps a player takes in the game, teams can make data-driven decisions that not only improve performance, but also extend careers. Turning our attention to baseball, the sport has experienced its own data revolution, driven largely by the advent of Sabermetrics, a term coined by baseball statistician coverages and in high leverage situations. One of the most profound changes in baseball has been the increased emphasis on defensive shifts. By using data on where hitters are most likely to hit the ball, teams have drastically altered their defensive positioning. Traditional baseball wisdom dictated that fielders should line up in set positions based on intuition and experience. But with advanced metrics and detailed spray charts, teams can now position their defenders in the optimal spots to prevent hits. This has led to a sharp increase in defensive shifts where infielders and outfielders are positioned in ways that would have been considered radical just a decade ago. The shift has proven effective, particularly against power hitters who pull the ball frequently. As a result, some hitters have been forced to adjust their approach to the plate, learning to hit the ball the other way or focusing more on elevating the ball to avoid groundouts into the shift. Pitching analysis has also been completely transformed by advanced data. Metrics like fielding independent pitching, or FIP, attempt to strip away the effects of defense and luck, focusing on the elements a pitcher can control: strikeouts, walks, hit by pitches, and home runs. FIP gives a more accurate picture of how a pitcher has performed, particularly when compared to ERA, which can be influenced by factors outside the pitcher's control, such as the quality of the defense behind them. The spin rate, one of the most recent breakthroughs in pitching analysis, has also changed the way teams evaluate pitchers. A higher spin rate on a fastball, for instance, makes the pitch appear to rise, which makes it more difficult for hitters to make contact. This data has led to an increased emphasis on high-spin pitchers who generate more strikeouts and weak contact. On the hitting side, advanced metrics like launch angle and exit velocity have become critical tools for evaluating a player's swing. Launch angle refers to the vertical angle at which the ball leaves the bat, while exit velocity measures how fast the ball is traveling after contact. These metrics have given teams a better understanding of how to optimize a hitter's swing for power. In recent years, there's been a growing trend toward launch angle revolution, where players are taught to adjust their swings to increase their launch angle with the goal of hitting more home runs. While this approach has led to an increase in strikeouts across the league, it's also produced more home runs as hitters focus on lifting the ball into the air rather than hitting grounders. In-game management in baseball has also evolved thanks to advanced statistics. Managers now have access to reams of data on matchups, tendencies, and optimal decision-making scenarios. For instance, platoon splits, data that shows how well a hitter performs against left-handed or right-handed pitchers, are now used to determine pinch hitting or bullpen decisions late in games. Managers can also analyze how well a pitcher performs the third time through the batting order, leading to quicker hooks for starting pitchers and greater reliance on bullpen arms. Long-term strategy has been impacted by analytics as well. Baseball teams are now more data-driven in how they approach roster traditional scouting methods. The advanced statistics revolution has had a profound effect on both basketball and baseball, transforming everything from player evaluation to game strategy. These metrics provide a level of insight that was once unimaginable, allowing teams to make more informed decisions and gain a competitive edge. As the data continues to evolve, so too will the games themselves. However, it's worth noting that while advanced stats have undeniably improved the way teams approach these sports, there will always be intangible elements, leadership, teamwork, chemistry, that cannot be easily quantified. In the end, the blend of science and human judgment